We're not sure what happened last night, but we know things got a little rough.
What do you mean?
Well, I think we all know what happened. I just think we don't want to talk about it.
Wait, what happened?
Oh my God.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 12. And before we begin, I am so irritated because we had to power through pretty much the entire season for us to finally get to the episode where Heather is sporting a black eye, and now she, along with production, want to play games. We don't have time for this. You guys cannot tease us with this who did it the same way you guys teased us about the Aspen trip, and now for you guys to pull the same stunt with Heather might have been assaulted by somebody on this cast, but yet nobody wants to say anything and there's no footage. Heather, you look crazy because there's no way on God's green earth that somebody is hitting me, left me with a black eye at that, and I'm not airing everybody out. Everybody would have known who did that to me immediately. We're not gonna be playing these sort of guessing games. And you lose credibility, and along with that, it makes people want to stop watching the show because all this is like a big tease. Who hit you? I'm really getting irritated with SLC. It's no wonder why the ratings keep steadily declining because of stupid stunts like this. But y'all, let's just jump right on into this because I have quite a lot to say and we don't have a minute to spare. Now, last week's episode left off on a cliffhanger with what happened to Heather, and the beginning of this episode was no different. Jen gets to Heather's room. Of course, she's trying to make small talk and joke about last night. And then Heather says, girl, sit down because I have to show you something. She takes off her sunglasses and there it is. She has a huge black eye. And I mean, it is swollen shut. Can't even open the eye. Now, I had to watch this episode twice just to study everybody's body language. I thought that Jen seemed the most nervous out of everybody throughout this episode. And I thought it was interesting when she said to Heather, girl, what happened? Does it hurt? And I was thinking, well, obviously it hurts. That's a dumb question. Jen also points out that Heather has scratches all over her body. And Heather's trying to play it off and say, oh no, girl, it's lipstick. And Jen says, no, those are scratches. And I was just so confused. Like, Heather, you're a grown woman. You know the difference between some scratches and some lipstick being on you. Who are you trying to cover up for? So now we have Jen asking Heather once again, who did this to you? What happened? So Heather says, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So that's why I called you down here because I want to set up a cover story to tell the ladies later on today when I see them. Now, let's pause right here because like I said in the beginning of this recap, if somebody were to assault me, there is no way that I'm trying to protect anybody or coming up with a cover story. I also found it weird that Jen was the first person that she called regarding her eye, because you and Jen just had it out the day before when you guys had lunch. You were trying to call Jen out on her behavior, how she's not a good friend to you, very toxic, and now all of a sudden you guys are the best of friends again? And now that I'm thinking about it, I wouldn't be surprised if Jen did this, and that was the reason why she called her up first. Like, I want to get your reaction to see if you remember, and I won't say it unless you do. That's what this whole thing gives. And since Jen is an expert liar, she has no problem pretending like she has no idea how this happened and acting so concerned. And when Jen was coming up with all those lies, saying, well, maybe say that a spider laid eggs in your eyes and that's why your eye is swollen shut. And then she said, well, maybe you rubbed your eyeball with peanut butter and that's why you can't open it now. And then when she made the joke saying that Heather might have met somebody off of Tinder and they came over to her room and they had a wild night, and that's why she has the black eye now.
No.
Now, when Meredith joined them in Heather's room and she learns about Heather's eye, she's in shock. She's like, who did this to you? What happened? We were with you in your room till 4 a.m. Like, How did this happen? So you have Heather pretending like she has no idea. She's like, girl, I don't know. Meredith was not buying it because she kept pressing her like, girl, who did this to you? The fact that somebody in this circle would do that to you is a problem. And Heather really pissed me off being so smug about this situation when she said, well, I don't recall. And when Meredith asked Heather if she had scratches on her back too, and Heather said yes, I said, oh, okay, there was definitely a fight. And remember, Meredith used to be a lawyer, so I would not be surprised if she is piecing all the info together and she already knows who did this. She's just waiting for the person and Heather to finally come clean about it. When I tell you that Whitney needs to grow up and get some help, because this next scene with her and Lisa talking, I said, it's always everybody else's fault except yours. She cannot own up to anything. When Lisa was asking Whitney how she was feeling because dinner last night went off the rails, and Whitney says that she's still not okay, but she's even angrier now at Meredith because she feels like Meredith is the ultimate puppet master and she stirs things up. The jokes truly write themselves because the audacity of Whitney of all people to say that somebody else stirs things up. Whitney is the biggest instigator on this cast. The lack of self-awareness is troubling. And Whitney, you better be giving 10% to Mary because I saw that you're now selling little girl t-shirts. I said, girl, give Mary her money, please, because she's the one who coined that. So Whitney continues blaming Meredith for everything, and she says that while Meredith is able to say that she didn't say anything, she gets other people to say what she wants for her. So she goes on to say that Meredith will allude to something, and then she'll get you to say it outright. And I said, first of all, let's not. Because Whitney, you sat at your house and ran your mouth about the rumors that you heard about Lisa. Did you not? Don't blame Meredith for making you say something. You were enjoying being messy. Own it. I'm so sick of that, well, Meredith has a way of getting you to say and do her dirty work. You're a grown woman. If you don't want to engage in the gossip, then don't do that. But don't run your mouth and then blame Meredith for making you run your mouth. If SLC does get another season, I would need Whitney to be demoted because what does she bring other than stirring up mess? She has not had a concrete storyline since season 1. So you have Whitney saying that Meredith is out seeking revenge on Lisa and she wants to take Lisa down. So of course she tells Lisa this and she says that Meredith is trying to organize the group against her and Lisa is upset. She's like, wow, really? Just wow. Honestly, Meredith won't be happy until I'm in the fetal position and I want to take myself out. Then she'll be happy. You make one mistake in a 10-year friendship and this happens, she wants to ruin me so that she can feel better about herself. Lisa, until you give an actual apology and you don't make excuses for it and you really own up to what you said on national TV, then I think that Meredith will finally forgive you. But giving somebody a half-assed apology, making excuses, not owning up to it, of course Meredith, like anybody else, would still be pissed. Saying, I'm sorry, but trying to justify something, that's not an apology. It needs to be, Meredith, I am so sorry, I was wrong, I don't know why I said that, or I do know why I said that, and I was wrong. I hope you can forgive me. But if you can't, I understand that, but I just want to apologize to you and your family. That's a good apology. It's clear, you're owning up to it, you're not making excuses, and Meredith has yet to receive that. I'm similar to Meredith where I've told you guys, forgiveness is a struggle for me and it takes a long time for me to get over things. So I probably would still be angry at Lisa for what she did. But the difference between me and Meredith is I wouldn't be talking about Lisa at all. I would just pay her dust. It is sad to see that Lisa and Meredith are on the outs because they did have a nice friendship. They were good friends for 10 years. Their families were close, but the damage has been done because of that one moment. Now, it was at this scene where my irritation just spiked. They're all in the living room, and as they're about to head off for the day's activities. Whitney's asking what happened last night, because remember that her and Lisa went to bed while the rest of the women were fooling around and just being silly and just staying up late. So Heather's trying to play coy and she says, well, I think we all know what happened. We just don't want to talk about it. So they're confused, and now she takes off her sunglasses and she shows them her black eye. So Lisa, Whitney, Dana, Angie K, all are in shock. They're like, what happened? Lisa is like, girl, what the F? What happened to your eye? You look like somebody clocked you. And you have Heather saying, well, maybe they did, and they just don't want to talk about it. You have Heather talking about, I don't want to talk about it anymore because I don't want my black eye to be the focus of the trip. So Lisa is really confused and she says, Heather, did the black eye give you memory loss? You just said 2 seconds ago that you don't remember what happened, and now you're saying I don't want to talk about it? Like, what are you talking about? Heather is moving like a weirdo, because this makes no sense. Heather laughing it off and trying to downplay what happened to her eye, yet still wanting attention for her black eye. She looked crazy. Even the producer was getting annoyed because in her confessional, they were like, okay, so Heather, what do you think happened? And then you have Heather getting snippy with the producer talking about, well, what do you think happened? I would have said, you know what, girl, I'm going off to lunch. You can text me when you get some sense and want to tell the truth, but I'm not going to sit up here asking you questions for you to play in my face along with everybody else's face. Because this is dumb. You got punched in the eye, but yet you don't want to say what happened and who did that to you? Now, while Whitney gets on my nerves, she did have some points when she said, seeing Heather laugh about this, yet still trying to allude that somebody in this group hit her, makes me sick to my stomach, because that's not okay. So they're still pressing Heather, trying to find out what happened, and then Whitney chimes in and says, Heather, if somebody in this group did this to you, then that's a problem. And of course you have Heather deflecting and saying, I don't want to talk about this, let's just have fun, and let's just deflect and move on the way I always do. Like, let's do the Heather Gay way where we don't talk about this, just sweep it under the rug. Heather should feel embarrassed to be moving this way at her big age. Somebody assaults you and you don't want to tell what happened? That's crazy to me. And the fact that you have 3 daughters, what kind of message is that sending to them? That somebody can attack them or physically assault them or violate their space? And that's okay? You just sweep it under the rug and keep it pushing? That's insane to me. And there's no way I'm protecting somebody who went out of their way to assault me. Absolutely not. They'd be kicked off the show immediately and in jail. I thought it was cute when they did the whole go-karting experience around San Diego. And at first, I thought it was go-karts, but no, it's a go-kart. They have it in select cities, and it's a GPS guided tour around the city. So I said, oh, okay, you learned something new. It was funny because they were all paired up with each other, except for Whitney. And when Whitney was driving her go-kart around, she got stuck and she couldn't even move. So she was holding up traffic, and one of the guys got out of his car to push her in the right direction. And those cars are so tiny, I would have been scared to be driving them on the main streets. But anyhow, they finished up with that, and now they split up in 2 groups. You have Meredith, Jen, Heather, and Angie K going off to a Vineyard, and then you have Lisa, Dana, and Whitney going roller skating. So we see the 3 of them skating, having a good time. They get some ice cream, and now they sit down to talk. And I already knew it was going to be a messy conversation because you have thirsty Whitney and an even thirstier friend of the show, Dana, who is dying to get a full-time spot. So of course, they start talking about Heather's black eye, and Lisa says that I don't want to assume anything, and Whitney cuts her off and says, well, look, if I had to guess out of anybody in this group to hit Heather, it would definitely be Jen. Her and Jen have the most toxic, confusing friendship that I have ever seen. So thinking about the state of their friendship and then how unpredictable Jen can be, Heather might have said something or done something to tick Jen off, and then Jen just hit her. I could definitely see that. Like I said earlier on, I do think that it was Jen. But Whitney's confused as to why Heather would cover this up if Jen is the one who hit her. She says, does she think that that would be bad for Jen's trial? I definitely think that that's the case. I think that Heather, while Jen and her do have their disagreements, I still think that there's a part of Heather that really craves Jen's approval. And because of that, she is afraid for Jen and what's going to happen to her down the road. And my opinion on that is, Heather, if this woman did assault you like that, you have every right to tell. And I would not be protecting Jen Shah because she wasn't thinking about the consequences when she stole from the elderly. And Jen, I saw you trying to air Whitney out on Twitter because you're upset that Whitney would even insinuate that you punched Heather. I said, girl, your sentencing is in less than 2 weeks. Pipe down. You have bigger fish to fry. And you calling Whitney racist, saying that Whitney needs to be quiet because she's best friends with the woman who was at the January 6th insurrection. And I said, Jen, please stop. You've been calling all these women racist since before this show even aired. And you get no sympathy from me because a few weeks ago, you were out here mad at a black content creator calling them an Oreo. But yet you want to be the face for Black Lives Matter, right? Girl, stop. I've been really tired of you and the caricatures of what you think a black woman is for quite some time. So now we flip to the other ladies at the Vineyard. They're having a wine tasting, their charcuterie. Heather had me screaming because she said, if I see another charcuterie tray, can we get some real food, please? A real meal with some utensils. I'm so tired of these rolled up meats and these cheeses and grapes. Give me some actual food. And I was screaming because I said the same thing to myself. I said, oh my gosh, this whole entire trip, it's been nothing but charcuterie trays. Can they get an actual meal, please? Can we see some pasta, some steaks? I mean, come on, some sushi, Mexican food, something. I love a charcuterie tray, but I need an actual meal as well. So Heather, I'm right there with you. There's only so much prosciutto and pepper jack and brie cheese that I can eat. So of course, as they're eating charcuterie and drinking the wine, Heather's black eye gets brought up, and Meredith makes it clear that this is not acceptable and it is wrong that Heather was assaulted like this. Now, did you guys notice that Jen looked real nervous? Because I said, yeah, she probably did it. So Heather's trying to brush off Meredith and she says, nothing to worry about. I've got it handled. Again, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Right then and there, I probably would have cursed Heather out. Like, first of all, how can you sit here and be so cavalier about what just happened to you? You were assaulted at 4 a.m. and now you want to tell us don't worry about it? That's very concerning because if this could happen to you, it could happen to any one of us. Heather, you're about to mess around and lose your fan base because a lot of people I've seen on Twitter, on Bravo's YouTube channel, when they play your episode or they play the after show, and a lot of folks are really irritated with you. They feel like you're a fraud. They feel like you're the one who has slowly become the villain. A lot of folks feel like you're milking this and that nothing happened and that you might have done it yourself. Like I said, you're losing credibility. And Heather, I really had a side eye for you when you sat up in your confessional and said that you can't say anything because that's the game of it all. And it feels like you guys are playing a game of Texas Hold'em where you all have your cards close to the chest and you're not gonna show your cards until somebody shows theirs first. What kind of game is this? Heather is moving way too weird in my opinion. And then when she said, I called you and Jen to my room first, when normally I'd call up Whitney. And then when she said, me and Whitney used to be in cahoots, I love that girl, like we were best friends. So Heather continues on by saying that while she's happy for Whitney trying to wipe the slate clean and start fresh with Lisa, that's cool, but leave her out of it. And how she's really upset that Whitney's running her mouth and telling Lisa what was said behind her back when they didn't like Lisa. And she says, it makes me feel like I can't trust Whitney anymore. Now, when it comes to the whole Whitney, Lisa, Heather situation, I honestly feel like Heather's jealous of the fact that Whitney and Lisa are now close. Because let the record show that Heather was dying to be friends with Lisa. But Whitney, what you're doing is wrong. To go back to Lisa now and tell her what you and Heather were saying about her, that's not right. What you and Heather discussed needs to stay between you and Heather. Heather continues on by saying that what Whitney's doing makes her not trust her, but she still loves Whitney and she wants to give her grace because Whitney's going through a lot. She now brings up Justin losing his job, and now Jen interjects with why she believes Whitney and Lisa have grown so close. So she says, well, maybe there's a reason why they've bonded out of nowhere. Because with Justin losing his job, and now there's an SEC filing against Lisa and John, right? So maybe that's why they're bonding. And I said, Jen, are you kidding? You of all people, you need to sit there and eat your food. What a joke for you to try to expose somebody and what they're going through. And I also have a question. For you to have scammed millions, why did you only purchase fake bags? I'm just so confused. What was all this for? Your former assistant already revealed in the documentary that the Porsche you were driving around in was borrowed. It was a neighbor's Porsche, and they allowed you to drive it for filming. Then on top of that, all the furs you were sporting were all borrowed as well. And then come to find out, they raided your closet, and everything in the closet was fake. The Chanel, the Louis, the David Yurman, all fake. But it all made sense to me because I remember saying, Jen, if you guys are strapped for cash, sell all your pieces and get some money to pay the bills and the legal fees. And it makes sense now because you couldn't sell anything because it was all fake. And now you have Jen being real shady, talking about, well, if you claim to be the richest bitch in this group, then why are you crowdfunding? And I said, girl, once again, sit this conversation out. I wouldn't have too much to say, sis. You probably have $2.50 in your fake purse right now, but you want to talk about Lisa crowdfunding. I'd keep quiet. So Meredith has all the tea about Lisa's SEC filing. Remember that she brought it up in the first episode, and she says, I'm confused too, because why would you be crowdfunding for such a small amount? So while they're all talking about Lisa's finances and her crowdfunding, Angie K is sitting there shocked. So back to Lisa, Whitney, and Dana. As they're eating their ice cream, Dana, of course, being super messy, brings up the tea that Meredith spilled last week about Lisa's SEC filing and the crowdfunding. So Lisa is irate. She's like, why is she talking to you about my business? This is BS. Meredith is trying to bury me. She's trying to destroy me. It is not Vita Tequila. It's one of our other brands that we sell nationwide. Meredith is retaliating against me because of that hot mic moment last year. She's trying to disparage my name, my family, my businesses, and my marriage. I'm sorry, but my business is not failing. It's actually thriving. So at this point, Lisa's so angry. She says, now I thought Meredith said that families and businesses were off limits. I guess not. So you have Lisa alluding that Meredith pops pills. And I said, child. But Lisa, going forward, I wouldn't be so quick to say that I'm the richest person in the group. Because once you say that, people get angry, they get jealous, and they will try to dig things up to see if that's really true. And I thought that was in very poor taste for you to say that in the first place. There's a saying that my dad used to always say, and it usually is very true, but he would always say that the loudest person in the room is usually the brokest. So take from that what you will, but I've noticed that the person screaming about how rich they are, usually they're not. Now we flip back to Heather, Meredith, Angie K, and Jen leaving the Vineyard, and now they're on the Sprinter van back to the house. So of course they're still talking about Lisa and this crowdfunding, and Angie K makes it clear that she's a bit uncomfortable with them talking about Lisa's finances. She's like, I don't believe for 1 minute that Lisa's broke. Do you see what she drives? Do you see the clothes that she wears? If that's broke, then sign me up. And I said, now, Angie, there are people who will max out a credit card to have the latest designer. Don't let that fool you. People can spend their last penny looking the part. And I'm not saying that that's what Lisa's doing, but you can never be too sure. We've seen a lot of these women get on these shows pretending like they have so much money to find out that it was a scam. They maxed out credit cards. They had to file for bankruptcy. It was all a sham. So I said, girl, not too much. But when I tell you they had me screaming on that Sprinter van, the way they were shading Lisa, Meredith said, at this stage in my life, I couldn't imagine crowdfunding for anything, especially not for such a small amount. And then you have Heather saying, yeah, I couldn't imagine crowdfunding for $25,000 either. Asking 100 people for $25, who does that? And then when she said, and I thought Vita Tequila was around for decades. Now, while they were shady, they told no lies because, again, if you claim to have it like that, $25,000 should be a drop in the bucket. And again, Jen, learn how to sit certain conversations out. Because when you Googled the whole SEC filing to show the ladies, I said, now what if somebody Googled your whole court case? You'd be mad, right? You are in no position to try to out anybody about what they're going through. So now all the ladies are back at the house and they're getting ready for the dinner. And tonight's dinner is going to be a Greek goddess dinner. Remember that Angie K is Greek. I love the theme. I love some Greek food, so I would have been right there with bells on. So while they're all getting ready, we now see Angie K and Lisa talking in Lisa's room, and they're making small talk. Angie K is asking Lisa how her day went. She says, oh, we had a good time, but we did have a very interesting conversation because Dana informed me that there has been a lot of conversation about my business. So Angie K says, funny you should mention that because at the Vineyard, Heather, Meredith, and Jen brought it up, and Jen was over there pulling up the records. So now Lisa is pissed. And then she gets even angrier when Angie K informs her that Meredith said that her husband John doesn't have a job. So Lisa is so disgusted. She says that it's a shame that Meredith is getting all the troops to attack her. And then she says, look, I know what I have. I know what we've built. And to say that John doesn't have a job, to talk about my husband, that is so disgusting. But I said, now, Lisa, you talked about Seth. You sat there and said he doesn't have a job, doesn't make any money, they don't own their own home. You started it, all right? So you'll be okay if you get the same energy sent back to you. So we get to the dinner. All the ladies dressed up as famous Grecian goddesses. I think Lisa was Helen of Troy. Now, Lisa's outfit did not give Helen of Troy at all. Even Heather was like, girl, that's the best you could come up with? Like, it's a sexy outfit, but it definitely wasn't Helen of Troy. I thought it was funny how Whitney and Lisa called Heather out because Heather had an eye patch and it had the evil eye painted on it. And they were like, now, how did you have an eye patch? And so she said, oh, Jen gave it to me because she packed it with her. And they were both like, now who just carries an eye patch with them? And that right there makes me think that, did y'all plan this out? Did Heather and Jen say, okay, girl, you're gonna punch me, and then I'm gonna act like I don't know who did it to make it dramatic and give me a storyline and some extra camera time? I thought it was strange too that Jen would just have a random eye patch packed in her luggage. But all the ladies are coming out to the table one by one. Jen dressed up as Athena and she had a shield and a sword with her, and she said that she's ready for battle. So at this point, Lisa is in a really pissy mood. She doesn't want to be there. She's angry at Heather, Jen, and Meredith for talking about her and her business behind her back. Now, Lisa, my whole thing is, if you're mad, that's cool, but say it with your chest. Stop being passive aggressive, because you mumbling under your breath and being snide and trying to be sarcastic And when Jen called you out and said, Lisa, what's wrong? Why are you so grumpy? And when you try to lie and say, oh, I'm fine, I'm not grumpy. And they were like, you obviously have an issue. So they start off the dinner with a toast, and Angie K lets them all know that she has given all them gifts. They open up the boxes, and it's these really cute evil eye necklaces. So she says, in our culture, the evil eye wards off negativity, any evil spirits. And Lisa says, that's very fitting for me because of what I learned that 3 people have been talking behind my back. I said, Lisa, we get it. You're angry that they're talking about you and Vita Tequila. So because we can't seem to have a decent dinner around here, Heather wants to know how Dana, Lisa, and Whitney's day went. And Dana says, oh yeah, we had a good time. We went roller skating. Now Lisa interjects and says, yeah, we had a real good time. We went roller skating, then we had some ice cream, and then we had a very, very interesting conversation. So it's obvious that Lisa is being super sarcastic, and now you have Whitney jumping in because Whitney cannot go 1 minute without stirring the pot. And she says, who is the one who brought up Lisa's SEC filing? Everybody at the table is quiet. They're all looking like, can we just have a nice dinner? So here goes Lisa. Why is everybody so worried that I have an SEC filing? Meredith, do you have something to say? And Meredith clears it up and she says, Lisa, it was the same conversation. I wasn't going around just telling everybody. We all talked about it. Yes, I did bring it up, but it was one conversation, not multiple conversations. So let's get that straight. So of course at this point, Lisa says, if anybody has any questions, you can come and ask me. I'll clear it up for you. She names another brand. I think she said it was called Tequila Ciudad or something like that. But she says that it was that business and they're fine. So Lisa goes on to say that it is so funny that Meredith wants to go around chit-chatting about her. And Meredith says, well, that's rich because you chit-chat about everybody else and their business. So of course, we already know what Meredith is referencing, the whole hot mic moment from last season. And Lisa's like, oh my gosh, I had one bad moment in our 10-year friendship. One bad moment. So now, of course, Lisa and Meredith go at it. Lisa brings up Meredith's comments about John not having a job. And I definitely caught that shade that Meredith was giving when she said, like, oh no, he does have a job. He works with you, right? So now you have Lisa calling on Angie K for reinforcement. So now Heather checks Angie K because it's clear that Angie K ran and opened her mouth to Lisa. And she says, Angie, really? Why'd you have to open your mouth and say anything? It's in poor taste for you to stir up drama before this dinner even starts. So now you have Angie K making excuses and she says, well, I was uncomfortable hearing you guys talk about Lisa in the van like that. It wasn't right. And I said, no, Angie, you only did it because you want to be on this show so bad. So of course, Lisa and Meredith are still going at it. Lisa's yelling at Meredith and she's like, why did you do this? To show that I'm not stable or something? And Meredith makes it clear that she's still angry at how Lisa spoke about her husband last year. And now Meredith gets really angry and she's like, what you said put my husband's 4,000 employees who work for him in danger. And once again, while Meredith is still angry and there are still hurt feelings on both sides, I am over this whole entire argument. I don't even care about the hot mic moment anymore. We're at the tail end of season 3. This happened at the end of season 2. Like, I'm tired. Meredith, you don't have to forgive Lisa, but you're either going to be pleasant to her when you see her or just ignore her. Lisa, make peace with the fact that your friendship with Meredith will never be the same anymore and move on, okay? But I'm getting real tired of both sides arguing about the same thing. So Meredith says that she's down to move forward, and I said, now come on. I don't believe it. Meredith, you know that you don't believe it, okay? Y'all were still going at it at BravoCon at the SLC panel. So I don't believe for 1 minute that you really want to move forward. And that's okay. You don't have to still be friends with Lisa. But don't lie to yourself and don't lie to us. So Lisa says that Meredith wants to punish her over one mistake, and Meredith says that that's not true. It's been a lot of things over the years. And we learned from Meredith that Lisa has talked behind her back, and on top of that, Lisa did not even call Meredith when Meredith's father was dying. I was really surprised to hear that, especially since Meredith and Lisa were really close, like sisters. So to hear that Lisa didn't even reach out to her friend while her friend was going through one of the toughest times of her life, that was very concerning to hear. Because I know I'd feel a type of way, like, really? And now you have Whitney trying to be a fake peacemaker, talking about, well, how can we all move on when we all remember things differently, but we still want to love each other? And now you have Heather jumping in, saying that as a group of women, they have more in common than they want to admit, and how this is all petty, trivial stuff. And now she tries to make a joke saying that her black eye is a metaphor for their friendships. And I was like, girl, what? And for somebody who doesn't want to talk about what happened to their eye, why do you keep bringing your eye up? If you don't want to talk about it, then nothing should be said, right? And then you trying to laugh off what happened, like, again, you sound really crazy. I don't know how you're laughing this off. There's nothing funny about this. So now Whitney says, Heather, how did you get the black eye? And Heather's trying to play coy. And she says, well, all I have to say is when somebody gives you a secret knock on your door, don't answer. And we close out the episode with the producer asking Heather again, so Heather, do you not remember what happened? And Heather says, I never said that. I said I don't want to talk about it. And the producer is so confused, they ask again, why don't you want to talk about it? And who are you trying to protect? And Heather says, I'm trying to protect myself. And when I tell you I was so irritated because this episode felt like a waste of my time. I honestly don't feel like reviewing the remainder of the season because I'm not going to play this dumb game of who did it when Heather's going to play coy and play in our faces and not answer the question. This entire season of SLC has been a complete flop. It started off promising and it's been a complete letdown. Bravo, I wish that you guys would show the footage. I really suspect that it was Jen involved in this black eye, and for some reason or another, Heather wants to be loyal to her and not out her. I don't understand it. I'm annoyed, and I've grown really bored with SLC and all their stunts because none of these ladies have any strong or concrete storylines, if we're being honest. Oh, one more thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Jen skipped out on this reunion because it was going to be found out that she's behind punching Heather in the eye, and she probably didn't want to talk about them seizing all her fake bags. But y'all, that was my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching, and you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.